and welcome to another edition of Chiodini's Kitchen, video game recipes made real. Now this week I'm very excited to be making not just a recipe from one of my favourite games, but using one of my favourite game soundtracks in the process. I'm going to shut up now and let the theme from Wolfstack Docks do the talking, because we're making Zzoup from Sunless Sea. So, in case you weren't aware, Sunless Sea is a wonderful game that sees you set out from fallen London to explore the Unterzee, a vast ocean, a whole world really, contained in a massive subterranean cave. See, during Queen Victoria's reign, a bunch of bats stole the city of London and dropped it in the Unterzee, hence fallen London. Anyway, as you embark on a series of dark, mysterious and extremely deadly quests, you can find all sorts of items, including Zzoup, a food item. Now I immediately hit a snag with this because while the item's description does give us a flavour profile, namely paprika, mushrooms and irony, it also states the recipe is closely guarded, which I think you'll agree is a bit of a problem here on Chiodini's Kitchen because recipes are what we use to cook with. Happily, I emailed Chris Gardner, narrative director at Fail Better Games, makers of Sunless Sea, to see if he would give up the closely guarded recipe, and amazingly, he came up with the goods. So without any further ado, here's what you'll need to make Zzoup. Wine-wound chanterelles. Wine-wound Heath, according to Chris, is located to the southwest of fallen London and is notable primarily for its picnickers, hopeful archaeologists and fog thick enough to knit with. You also need Exile's Rose, which, as you may recall, is black and grows in hell, says Chris. We need paprika, pork stock, lament onions, and hanged men's tears. Oh, and some salt. Okay, so pork stock, fine, chanterelles, check, salt, not a problem. Exile's Rose, this is a bit of a weird one because I didn't know when I came to this recipe what to use. We know it's black and it grows in hell, and I was a bit stumped. So what I did was I put this to the rest of the Eurogamer video team and asked them what they thought I should use, and Aoife brilliantly suggested shaved truffles because they're kind of dark and potent and kind of infernal, and when you shave them they look not unlike petals, or at least bits of plant. So when I set out to do the shop this week, I tried to find some truffles. I failed to find some truffles, so instead I went with truffle oil. So we're kind of using a substitute for a substitute of an ingredient, which isn't ideal, especially since truffle oil has never actually been near a truffle, but it's gonna have to do. So the first thing we're gonna do to make Zzoup is stick the kettle on to make pork stock. So the next step is to cut up a couple of lament onions. Now I'm not really sure what makes a lament onion different from a normal onion. To be honest, these could already be lament onions and I wouldn't even know it, but if I had to guess, I'd say a lament onion is an onion that has something to be sad about. So just to be safe, I'm going to insult these onions while I cut them up. Okay, let's see. You are really ugly. You should have stayed in the ground because nobody enjoys your company. Your favourite band is actually bad. You give terrible Christmas presents. Everyone that's ever said they loved you was lying. If I had to choose between being your friend and breaking my own legs, I'd break my own legs every single time. Your parents never loved you, nor did they want you. That should do it. Do onions have parents? I genuinely don't know. Either way, they should be sad enough now, so we're going to start gently frying them in a deep pan with some truffle oil. Also, the kettle is boiled, so we're going to start making pork stock. I say start making pork stock, what I mean is dissolving a stock cube in some water. It's not that hard, to be honest. Okay, so the lament onions are sweating away quite nicely behind me. They already smell quite good, to be honest. So it's time to add the chanterelles. Now, I'm going to be adding these ones in whole because towards the end of the cooking process, I'm going to be blending the Zzoup until smooth. However, if you would prefer to keep your ingredients sort of intact and get a sort of chunky soup out of it, you might want to cut these up a little bit smaller because they are fairly big. Either way, in they go. So with the mushrooms cooking away quite nicely here, what I'm now going to do is add some smoked paprika in directly onto the mushrooms and onions. I'm going to add a fair bit because the in-game item looks rather red. In fact, I believe it's described as old blood on snow in its appearance. So I'm adding sort of that much to start with. I can always add more later. I'm just going to stir that through for another minute just to coat the onions and the mushrooms, and then the pork stock is going to go straight in after that. And there so far is our Zzoup, which we're just going to leave simmering down gently. I'm going to lower the heat under that actually, just to reduce it down a bit and let the flavours really mingle together in the pot. So there are just 2 ingredients to add to our Zzoup before it is ready, and the first of those is a hanged man's tears, although apparently in the game it is established that the tears of a heartbroken priest will do just fine. I don't really see how I'm going to get access to either. I don't know any heartbroken priests, and I'm certainly not going to hang anyone for the sake of this recipe, especially since that's a crime, and putting it in a video and then putting that online would get me caught, arrested, and imprisoned. So I don't have a hanged man, I don't have a heartbroken priest. I do have tear ducts of my own though, so I guess I'm just gonna cry into this soup and hope that does the trick. I'm just gonna shift this over on the hob and take off my glasses. I've saved some onion skin just in case I need it, but to be honest I don't think I will. I'll just sort of stand over this and keep my eyes open. Fun story, I used to work in a pub when I was a teenager, and they used to make their own pickled eggs. So frequently when I was working in there, I was a kitchen porter doing the dishes and stuff, they would have these vats of vinegar and pickling spices over the stove, and they'd be letting off these god almighty fumes, and there was a game we used to play as kitchen staff, whereby the rules of the game were very simple. You all started at once, you had to have your head over the pot, you had to have your eyes open, and you had to be inhaling through your nose at all times, and the last person standing was the winner. It was a weird game, but I was 16 years old, so at that point I was sort of ready to play anything. Right, so I'm not sure if that came across on camera, but I promise you I did get a couple of tears in there, which means there's only one more ingredient for us to add, and that is salt, which ordinarily is fine, but in the context of this being a recipe from Sunless Sea, I'm actually a little bit nervous, because I'm not sure if you're aware, but salt is one of the 3 gods of the Unterzee, and in my opinion is by far the cruelest. If you ever run out of fuel on your travels across the Unterzee, you can make an offering to salt and hopefully you'll find some fuel, and sometimes it works. I've lost count of the number of times I've had to do it, but I do know for certain that salt very frequently deals out mortal wounds whenever this happens. So I'm going to add some salt to the soup now and just sort of hope I don't get seriously injured. Here goes nothing. Alright, no serious injury. That's a bonus in my book. If you're disappointed by that, sorry, but also that's quite cruel. Anyway, what we're going to do now is just let the Zzoup simmer down a bit before we blend it, and then it'll be ready. Alright, so I think this little concoction's been simmering down for long enough, so here comes the hand blender, and it's time to turn this into actual Zzoup. And that, everybody, is Zzoup from Sunless Sea. It looks quite good, to be honest. I'm not 100% about the colour. It's not exactly old blood on snow so much as old carrots on snow, but still, it looks pretty tasty and it smells really good, actually. So let's find out how it tastes. Alright, Zzoup from Sunless Sea. Let's see how it tastes. That might be one of the best things we've ever made on Chiodini's Kitchen, actually, and it's all using things, apart from the truffle oil, that were suggested in game, but that is absolutely stonking. The mushrooms are really creamy, and it's offset by the smokiness of the paprika, and the pork stock has this just really meaty smack to it, which kind of underpins everything. That is absolutely brilliant. That is like proper winter's day, rustic bread, like slab of butter soup. That is wicked. That's really, really good. Alright, so thank you very much for joining me on another edition of Chiodini's Kitchen, and a very special thanks to Chris at Fail Better Games for revealing the secrets of Zzoup, because I haven't completed that quest yet in the game, because I'm really not very good at it. But also thank you very much for having an absolutely stonking recipe in your game. That is one of my all-time favourites. I'll be back as ever next Wednesday, so please do keep those recipe suggestions coming in, because they are really very, very useful. And yeah, there are plenty more videos for you to watch from Eurogamer. There should be some on screen now, framing my face. Do like and subscribe so you don't miss anything. It really does help us out. And, well, yeah, thanks again for watching, and have a lovely day.